Name's Carol Brown, and I am one of the department heads for the costuming group at Chicago TARDIS. I also do photography with Rod Photography, and I've been doing it for years and do photojournalism and a variety of all kinds of other things in my wheelhouse. Uh, so if the other Mary Jo, you want to go?
Hi, I'm Mary Jo Kravis. I'm the other department head of custom events and the other half of grad photography. Carol and I have been tag teaming on photography and convention staffing and running for quite a number of years. and I've been doing photography for it's over 25 years now. I started in 7th grade with SLR photography. And so then in the last few years, I've been doing most of my photography at conventions.
Yay!
Jen?
Oh, hello. My name is Jen. I do photography under the handle Orange Go Fish. I've been doing it probably for about 12 years now. And I enjoy it. I look forward to mostly convention photography. Usually do photo shoots and such at conventions. And happy to be here. Yay!
And Neil.
Hi, I'm Neil Hayes, and I am Orange Go Fish grip, best boy, gopher, handler. So I do all those necessary jobs that are kind of make the. I don't have the talent she does in the photography realm, but I'm able to help her a little bit there to do her magic. But I've been cosplaying for well over 10 years. And so I kind of know a little bit about, how to pose and what to do with armor so it shows up better with photography. So.
Okay, and we want to thank everyone that's joined us for this roundtable in a way. And if you have questions during any of this, just let us know. Raise your hand in the chat or ask it when you can. So we're going to discuss photography for beginners. Find a lot of people are all of a sudden having to do it on their own, especially if they're doing virtual competitions or what, with being stuck at home by themselves, or have to give grandma a quick tutorial on how to take a couple pictures. But it's also something to keep in mind, something you can practice, something you can get ready for down the road. And so start with, you don't necessarily need the biggest, brightest, best, most expensive equipment. There's some photos, and I'll show you them. We have some photos to show in a little bit that we've done on cell phones, and we're talking like 5-10 years ago cell phones. So you'd be surprised what can be done if you know how to look at different angles, different lighting, in camera, in cell phone editing as it is, much less all the Lightroom and all the fancy apps as well. I do a lot of photo shoots. I also do convention stuff. So some of them are different than just the normal hallway grabbing. And so what's good is if you as a photographer can work with the cosplayer, if you're communicating with them beforehand. So you might not know all the characters that people have, or all the shows, or every little ship and whatnot. So if they come to you, ask them, do you have even any, if you have time to prepare for it, do you have any reference material? Do you have any photos that they could send you? I think, Mary Jo, you like when they do like a shared folder if you're doing a pre-done photo shoot?
Yeah, I did a photo shoot with Level Up Photography at Anime Central a few years ago, and ahead of time she asked, she said, do you have reference photos for the characters? And she and I both actually went out and found reference images of the characters, and we put them in a shared Google Drive folder that we both had access to. And during the shoot, when we were kind of going, oh, okay, what pose do we want to do next? She'd pull out her phone and open up the folder and look at the pictures, and we went, aha, let's try this picture. It really helps. I actually keep my Dropbox, about 90% of my almost full Dropbox is cosplay reference. I have an extensive file for each character, and I keep photos in there, like good poses, but also like when I'm building it, like there's one character I have about 50 photos just of his hair for styling the wig. And the nice thing about like Dropbox or Google Drive folder is that you can share it with other people. I've shared my cosplay reference file photos with other people, and you can access it on multiple devices. So I can access it from my phone, from my computer, from any internet connected computer. And it helps because then when you're going to take the photos, if you're running out of ideas for poses, well, you've got that reference file there. You can look at it and get ideas.
I know I've had even individuals like at C2E2 stuff when we have some free time and we go take somebody to the side when we're not running other booths or what, is if there's something I'm not sure of or they're trying to get, they will often have like an example or two on their phone and be like, this is what we need. Can we do this? Wait, let's see. So yep. It helps in that respect to, if you're the subject, and all of us here have been photographers and the subjects at one point or another, to have something, especially with something specific in mind that you want to get done, even if it's just at a con. Like if somebody asks me, I wonder if they can do this shot, don't be afraid to keep that there, and it'll help facilitate that between the cosplayer and the photographer. Any tips from either of you on little things like that that you have at your fingertips possibly?
Well, I enjoy listening to you two ladies talk because I do come with reference photos, but I never thought about Dropbox. So I love this. I learned something as far as tip goes. So I'm going to employ that. What I like to do, what I do, because I just do the hallway photography or outside photography, is because we are moving around a lot. As a photographer, for me, I don't carry light sources. So what I try to do is I try to take pictures where there's natural light sources, like outside or windows, or I try to find certain parts of the hallway or areas within the convention, like maybe a black screen I could use as a background. And so that kind of like on the fly, working with the resources at hand, that's one of the triage photography things that I'd like to throw out there, because sometimes, you have a photographer and the cosplayer only has a few minutes for somebody to take a picture, and you feel like, I don't have my lights, I don't have this, I don't have that. But there's lots of ways that you can look around in your environment and find something you can work with. And so that's my biggest tip, is environmental assistance. So that's something I think that instead of getting frustrated or disenchanted or concerned, just pop in the triage, look around, assess your location, what you can use, and make it happen.
Yeah, I like that working with the natural light and what you have around you is very good. And sometimes even if it's not the best lighting, depending on the character, you can use that to your advantage too. Get a really creepy half dark shot or something of a bad guy.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
And I think one of the big things too is from a cosplayer point of view, the cosplayer and photographer, you're partners. Those great shots aren't just because of the cosplayer or just because of the photographer. It's a team. And you know, when you're a photographer, if you come up and you see that the light is bad where they're standing, tell the cosplayer to move over here. The light's better. You know, most cosplayers will be like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. If you notice like their wig is like lopsided, you know, say, hey, your wig's lopsided. You know, you might, can I adjust that? Because we're a team, and as a cosplayer, you can't always see yourself. You know, you're walking out there. And also, you know, especially with new cosplayers, you're not sure about how to pose. And so, you know, as a new cosplayer, all my poses were like, you know, like that. And so a photographer really has an eye for what looks good with you. And you might say, hey, bring your head down a little bit. You know, I've watched Orange Goldfish here do that a lot. And some of the cosplayers that aren't familiar with her, they'll be like, why is she telling me what to do? But then they look at the photograph afterwards and like, oh my God, that's amazing. So yeah, it's really a partnership.
Yes, it definitely is. I'm lucky that some of the cosplayers I get to know over the years that come to the same conventions or what have learned to trust me on some things. Like and there's some that are like, why are you making me do like this or whatever? And I'm like, just trust me. And they do. And that, first of all, means a lot to me that they trust me. But then they look at the picture and they're like, oh, I see what you're going for. Because they can't always see it. Stephanie has a good question, kind of in this vein. How do you draw out a shy subject?
Oh, well, can I?
Go ahead, Jen.
Go for it.
Well, yeah. Woo! Well, you know, I think that's something that a photographer, first of all, should look at. Well, I don't want to tell a photographer what to do. I think all of us, because Mary Jo and Carol are amazing, kind of can tell when somebody is a little hesitant or a little shy or new to having their picture taken or self-conscious. And I think that one of the things I've seen both of you do, and Carol, when she was just saying, oh, I say, hey, you know, trust me, you know, she has a calm voice, and like she every once in a while she'll tell me, take a deep breath, and I'll be like, what? And I'll be like, I'm like, oh, I see what she meant. But there is I feel a trust that you need to become adept at learning needs to be evolved. So I think that making people feel comfortable, making people trust you, you know, making sure, hey, can I take your picture? Is that okay? And then you know, if you see somebody still have like trepidation, hey, are you comfortable? I trust me. What would you like? Would you just like it here? Is that better? Or would you like waste? Or, you know, try to get them involved with the process and the decision making so they feel that they're part of everything, not just posing, but actually having a choice. And maybe some people need just a few more interactions with a photographer to be more comfortable, and you have to be respectful of that. But I think that trying to engage in a trust relationship, I think that's the most important thing initially.
I think a kind word right off the bat. You know, you're a photographer and you've come over here to take their picture because you like their costume, or you know, and so let them know that, you know, let the person know, say, hey, you know, this, I love what you've done with whatever, you know, or something along those lines. And I think, you know, I've watched Jen do that a lot. You know, you start off and you kind of converse just for, you know, even if it's for like 15, 20 seconds, it kind of gets you each other comfortable with each other. So,
and I know if you also like, if they're unsure maybe how to pose or something, like I don't know, or I don't know I'm going to take a couple seconds. Like if you know the character, like, hey, why did you want to cosplay Captain Jack? Like what, you know, got to you about that character? Or if you don't know the character, that's also a good opening. Like, your costume is awesome. I had to come, like, I don't know the character, but like, I can tell you, like, wow, tell me about it. And because this is obviously something they're passionate about, that they've gone to this whole process of making this costume, that it gets them talking about something that they know, something that they love. So they're already getting a little bit at ease. And the fact that you show that interest is huge to some people.
Yeah, I know, especially when I first started going to Ace, and there were a lot of costumes that I really hadn't seen any anime beyond Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura. So there were a lot of cosplayers I was going up to going, I have no idea what your costume is, but I love it. And I posted a few photos that those first couple of years that I was like, I literally labeled it with, I have no idea what this costume is, but it's gorgeous and I love it. And that's how I learned about a lot of these anime series, was from people going, oh, that's so-and-so. You should totally watch this.
Okay. Let's see, we got another good question from Drew. When it comes to posing in hallway, when someone comes up and asks for a pic, what's the best way to become more at ease with adopting a quick pose without the prior interaction with the photographer or time to set the shot up? So like a quick hallway, like you're in the way of panels and stuff, you know.
Well, I can address that. Your mirror is your friend. You know, put the costume on before you go to the con. Get in front of the mirror. Practice posing. Practice posing your head in different angles, where your body is. You know, and sometimes you get that go-to pose. You know, that pose that's really sets off. Because sometimes we think we look great, but then look at that mirror, and then and just use the mirror and pose in the mirror and practice a little bit beforehand, so that you're not, when you do, somebody does come up and wants your picture, you kind of know what you're going to do. You know which side looks better. You know, turning to the side doesn't look good, but flat on does, or vice versa. So you'll know that ahead of time. So use that mirror. The mirror is great.
Yep, the mirror can be your friend. Get used to stuff, and sometimes it's good, since a lot of us seem to go to cons with at least one other person. You have your quote unquote handler. So if you have that friend there that's holding your bag for your photo or someone you're hanging with, and you then thusly do this for others, if you're not the one being taken a photo of, that is the quick one of, move that way, or or a quick little, you have a friend with you or other cosplayer that you're buddies with, be that for each other. That it's like that last little double check, especially if you guys each know the character. And that's another thing, buddy system works great, and not just for the cosplayers, but for the photographers. So even if you don't necessarily need help with setup or carrying stuff or what, it's great to have someone else there. It's great to have someone be a second set of eyes sometimes, or help with quick, throw up the cape and run out of the shot. So it looks like there's movement, because a lot of that helps. And then it also helps that it's not just you and one other person. So if you're wary about something or worried, there's a lot of stuff that happens in cosplay community. You got multi people, and so, and it's better with friends if you can.
Yeah. Well, and I find like Carol and I shoot together a lot. So if you look at our photography page, there's sometimes where you'll see like a photo of the same cosplayer, but from two completely different angles because we're shooting together. But what's great about that is, you know, not only do we get unique angles, but sometimes it helps. Like I might spot that, you know, like somebody's like a tie is coming undone, or you know, like fabric is starting to slide, and Carol might not notice it because of her angle. so that's another great thing about, you know, like, and if a photographer ever says, don't bring a friend to a photo shoot, that's a big red flag, because I would rather have 5 people that are kind of standing around, because then I can hand somebody a light, I can have somebody fluff a cape, or I can have somebody go, by the way, you might want to check your zipper, because because not, you know, more sets of eyes, you're more likely to spot the problems before you take the photo.
Doing Leela, check the bikini. Check the bikini.
Yep. Oh yeah.
You never know. Speaking of angles, let me share you. Like, it's your example. Like, and this is also going to what we're saying about you don't necessarily need everything fancy. It's sometimes just an angle changes things up, and using natural stuff. Where was it? Here. So we have this photo, a couple of doctors out in the woods, like you do.
Just hanging
great
out.
Photo. Yeah, great photo. They're all there. You can see their costumes. You can see different poses, but just change, just literally just a couple feet. Different perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is more like they're facing off against someone. One is taking no guff. So
they're fighting the master.
You know, could be. Master's not in that shot.
Yeah, he was there though.
Yep. But you see, it's all in just, and that was just a shift of literally a couple feet this way. So that's the fun thing with that. And just even this is straight on, but just crouch a little if you can. It gives it a different perspective. And no, we don't know when they're going to drop their next album.
It does look awesome.
This was taken with a cell phone and edited in the cell phone 8 years ago. So that's that cell phone technology. Imagine what you could do nowadays. So like I said, it's not that you have to have all, you know, and this was taking advantage of the lighting. So we have the master trying to convince the doctors of his plan. But then, like, this is making do with hallway. This literally took a couple minutes and was the moment, it's an opportunity. It was like, wait, we have this, they're within vicinity. How do we get this? Jen took this one.
Well, I didn't set it up. I think somebody, was it Mary Jo or Carol? You guys helped with it? Somebody helped me set it up. So,
but this was taking the chance on a moment.
Yes.
They happen to both be in the hallway.
Yes.
Yeah. And I made the we were like, what do we have for a rope? And I said, oh, I have a scarf.
Yes,
that is
perfect.
That is my scarf that I knitted. That's 22 feet of scarf there.
So this goes to show that you never know, really. So especially doing hallway, kind of have your eyes open all the time. Different opportunities will arise. And it's not just, it might just be something like totally like didn't imagine, then all of a sudden, oh wow. And when you get to people are willing to work together for the shot, don't throw away your shot there. But then this is hallway. I like that you have a forced perspective on this. So only the master's in focus. Adds to the creepiness.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
They did very well. They competed.
Very, very good. Fabulous.
And this is different folks. So this isn't even, they don't all know each other, but hey, we're all doctors and the poor brig. the only one down there. So sometimes you will start with, especially in hallway, one person or two. Don't be afraid when all of a sudden others start joining in or their friends catch up with them and they start joining in, and play with that. You can totally have fun with it. Play with different levels. Don't be afraid to get props in there. If they have props, that's also another way that if they're shy, you can bring that in. If they're like not sure how to do it, if you notice they might have a prop with them, hey, can you paint something? And they're like, oh, yes, I can do this. And it gives them something to do as a character or something to think about. Like, oh, well, they wouldn't be firing it, but they'd have it like a banana. Okay. But it's something then you're getting them talking and you're showing that interest. And it's something, sometimes they just need something to do. Like actors on stage. Sometimes I just need a prop to hold. It's true. Actors do that. Cosplayers do that. And then this goes back to how we were talking about recreating. This was a gender bent torchwood at con. You notice the wonderful Weston walls behind.
Yeah.
And this was, I know with this one, at least 5-10 minutes we're stuck looking at that photo because we had the 5-10 minutes to get the hand placements correct. Like Yanto onto Jack's knee and all that stuff. So you can go into a lot of detail. You can go into a lot of quick stuff. And this, along with this, these were outside of con, but it's also when we were talking about take advantage of what you have in the hallway or what you have wherever you are. Sometimes inspiration strikes. Don't be afraid to suggest something crazy. Still legal, but something crazy. And one of my best tips, especially with cell phones, other stuff, is play with angles. Think like the superhero pose. Look, it's Western photos. Yeah, so you think of that superhero poses and playing with all that stuff. It's fun. And sometimes I bet you Jen was chatting with them. You can tell by the looks on their faces. And just a couple minutes of chit chat, just a good morning, happy Saturday, whatever the day is, it works.
Oh, look at that.
Yay. Same with this. They got props. What can you do? And that kind of helps them get into character. And this was just taken outside. But I know Val has a couple poses for this character and other characters that she kind of keeps in her repertoire. Just like I know Neil does. He knows his good side.
Always got to know your good side.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to have a pose on both sides too, because you never know when you're going to be standing on one end or the other end. So you got to know how you look on both sides. So
yes. And we mentioned theater and actors already. I know one thing I love doing, I do have a theater background for decades now. Wow. Is play with levels. If you think of photographers who do like sports photos and stuff, how everybody's on different lines, at least do that. Like if you got a group photo or what, don't have just everybody standing straight in one line. You can have somebody crouching, you can have somebody kneeling. Like I said, even if you do like the sports photo thing or have them on stairs without blocking the stairs. Remember, legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have an idea, don't be afraid to talk to the cosplayers about it. Just say, hey, I've got this idea. Can we try it? Well, 99 out of 100 cosplayers will be like, yeah, cool, sure.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are willing to use it. Do we have a preferred piece of editing software to use, like for cleaning up lighting?
I use Lightroom, especially once I got my DSLR, my digital Nikon, and learned my early photos with it are not as good because I was shooting just JPEG, and then I learned to turn on the little RAW switch, Lightroom is actually really good because it helps organize the photos, and then it also, you can do simple edits. And if you do shoot in raw mode, you have a lot more data to use. And I notice, like, if my exposure is off, you know, if it's too dark or too light, you can actually fix it up to 2 f-stops with if you shot raw. So you can do a lot to fix the lighting, and that's usually, most of my edits are just tweaking color balance, exposure, sometimes you know, the shadows, and I usually do that mostly in Lightroom. And then occasionally I'll fire up Photoshop if, you know, photo needs a little bit more extensive editing. But Lightroom is actually pretty good for most of my photos.
I use Photoshop Express, the app. A lot of my stuff is on the fly, so I edit on my phone. But I do prefer it in a larger picture on the laptop. But I do use Photoshop Express, so that's what I use.
I use between the Lightroom and Photoshop, depending what I'm doing or what I'm trying to tweak. I don't get as many done because I'm usually running stuff. But I do make a suggestion that even if you're using like the in-phone just built in, if you're looking at something and like something seems off, something seems right, or you want to do a little cleanup first, even if you don't save it, hit the auto enhance, and see what that pulls up, because sometimes that changes the lighting already, or it gives you an idea like, ooh, maybe I don't want it that bright, but okay, I see where it went. And you can even adjust off of that.
That's
so
really
it gives you something to look at. Especially if you're like not sure, like, why does this seem off? Why? I don't know.
That's why your pictures look so amazing. Oh.
I've also been going into food photos now because of some other stuff. That is not necessarily easier than dealing with people. Also, good thing to remember, and I know people don't necessarily, everybody's like, oh yeah, of course, but sometimes you gotta remind yourself some of the stuff. Like if you're doing group shots, double check for eyeballs all looking at you or looking away if it's supposed to be that way. Nobody's blinking. It gets better and better with group shots. That's one advantage to digital stuff compared to when you used to shoot film. You kind of have unlimited to at least get one right.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to, if you are shooting with the digital camera and you've got that preview screen, that is one thing I do like about shooting the digital versus the film, because Carol and I both come from a film background, is I do, if I'm unsure, I can actually do a quick peek at that preview on the screen, and that helps. It's not like film where you literally are just a phrase I kind of like to use, is spray and pray, just shoot and pray something comes out. At least with the digital, you can kind of go take a quick peek and go, oh, that looks way too bright, that looks way too dark, and you can adjust on the fly.
That's so awesome. I love that. Yeah.
Stephanie mentioned that DxO Photo Lab is also a good digital program, and they recommend it.
Ooh.
That's one I'm not familiar with, but I now have to look into.
Going to totally
just to know, and knowing
is half the battle.
Yes, we mix up our fandoms. Also, one thing, it's kind of an etiquette. Don't demand to necessarily see the photos in the viewfinder if you're the cosplayer. Photographer might show it to you, but sometimes that photo isn't the end product, depending. Or they're looking at to determine, and you might not be seeing what they're seeing. So, and there's some, and also some people who do that are very demanding, which then makes it a little uncomfortable for the photographer, especially if they don't know you that well. Sometimes you got to trust them. I know it's hard. Trust me, it's very hard. Trust. Trust me, I'm the doctor. Also, a good tip for keeping things straight is business cards. And they don't have to be expensive. You can just even print up a piece of paper at home. But it helps keep track. So I know, especially at a con, and even like Chicago Artists, sometimes it's like, wait, who was that person? You know, even when you don't have thousands of people, it's still, you're going places, you're doing things. Like, oh my God, this is an awesome 13th Doctor. Wait a minute. Who was that? So you as a cosplayer can give them like your name. And then also if you have a cosplay page or a photo page or how you want to be tagged in it. And then some people have different cosplay names compared to their real names. And then also you as a photographer, you have it, then you give them the card. And somehow if you forgot to tag them, they didn't have a card, or even just for to find them and then their friends, and also then talk about you, and hopefully get your views up back and forth, is then they can find you. Because trust me, a lot of things happen. There's a lot of cars, there's a lot of commotion on a convention weekends. Sometimes things get misplaced. Or sometimes you put them someplace safe and then you find them 2 months later in the one pocket of the suitcase.
Yep.
That you never used that pocket before, but somehow it ended up there.
Yeah. Well, and it's E2E2. There was I'll never forget there was a cosplayer who was cosplaying the Infinity Gauntlet from the Avengers movies. And this was, you know, person like the giant Infinity Gauntlet fist, and they had handlers with them because this person definitely needed help navigating the con floor. And so when I got their picture, then one of the handlers handed me a card, and it had their cosplay name on there, but it was a yellow card. It like they handmade them. It was yellow card cut out of cardstock, and it had the cosplayer's name, like and their page link, and it had like a little gem glued to it. So even like 3 months after the con, when I ran into that card again, I'm like, I know exactly which cosplayer this went to, because it was memorable.
Wow, what a great idea.
Yeah, it was, and it was a great costume too. It was amazing. But that was a really good way to remember, okay, now I've got this cosplayer's name and I can tag them easily when I go to post the pictures.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, most definitely. So like we said, you don't need to have the best equipment. But also friends can be friends. I know like Mary Jo and I can swap lenses because we both use Nikons within a couple generations of each other. And it's also fun to play around with different lenses and different f-stops. So don't be afraid to experiment, especially starting out, especially if you have a couple minutes. And I know I prefer manual focus, even on hallway. Like I have a basic set, like I've taken a moment, either taken a friend or found somebody I focused on. It's going to be about approximately as far away as I'm going to be with that lens, like in the hallway. And I just take a moment to adjust it for that. I find I like that better sometimes than autofocus. And it seems like it's going to be a lot, but it doesn't necessarily turn into a long time, because it's usually just minute focusing.
That's good to have it prepared in advance. That's great advice. Then on the fly, on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if the event is like in your town, you can even maybe stop by there before the event, you know, before it starts, like a week before or whenever you have a few minutes, just snap a few pictures and in different things in different places in the hallway, kind of see where the light is and all that stuff. Then you have an idea before you even walk in there where the good places and the not so good places are. So I watched for years, I've watched Orange Go Fish just she's like, she walks into a place and she knows where the good light sources are, where the bad light sources are, and she's really good at seeing where those are. And you know, like I say, she'll tell people, you know, can you come over here? Just walk over here, and most people will be like, yeah, okay. So and she usually gets really good shots. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because I had wonderful teachers. And honestly, I watched Carol and Mary Jo how many years at the CWC booth and then at TARDIS. And I watch and I learn and I listen. So, you know, thank you guys.
Yeah, I think between all three of you, you've shot like everybody in the Chicago area. I think every cosplayer just about.
Especially if we go back over the years, I think pretty close.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Well, and like last year, a group formed locally, the Chicago Cosplay Meetup group, and it's been nice because thanks to that group, where basically it started out with, we just said back in July of last year, was like, okay, a whole bunch of us photographers are going to be at Lincoln Park. It was just outside the zoo. We set a meetup point and we said, you know, basically we're going to have a whole bunch of these cosplay photographers. We'll be doing shoots for free. Come out in your costume and we'll get some photos. And then everybody enjoyed it so much they said, let's do this again. And so we ended up doing like 4 more meetups before the end of the year, and then the world falling apart. But because of that group forming, then I've gotten to actually spend a little bit of time chatting with some other cosplay photographers in the area, and we learn from each other. And it's kind of nice because also too, everybody's got different styles, and you get to see different styles of shooting, different styles of editing, and it's a great way to learn.
I know when I worked at a photography studio, even when I wasn't doing the photography, I would watch the other photographers and just watch their interactions, watch how they set up things or got, because we were dealing with student yearbook photos and stuff. So we had a variety of ages from kindergarten through seniors in high school. So it was interesting to see how they changed their attitudes or their speech with different groups, how they put them together, even like how they grouped them in group photos was a little different from photographer to photographer. So it's good to like observe others at cons or whatnot, and you might not take everything you see, but to find something that might work for you, like I was saying, we've taken all this in, and now we shuffle away the good and the bad, and we keep the good, or what'll work for us. Drew asked, I've noticed a lot of quarantine photographers are using ring lights for their at-home cosplay pics. You generally recommend using one? I know a lot of vloggers use ring lights as well. I've seen that. A lot of vloggers, Twitch stream, have done ring lights. The thing I find disconcerting as a photographer is a ring light does the ring on the eyes. So it throws me, especially when you're doing like close-ups, and all I keep looking at the eyes and it doesn't look natural. Or it doesn't seem like you're getting the exact focus you want on that close-up. That's my one big issue with it. It does pretty decently at lighting, but it's that you see the circle, you see the ring in other places. I've even done, like I have, when I had my house redone after an incident, like I actually specifically chose matte paint so things wouldn't reflect off, like the glossy, and like I have different lighting and a different, like one's daylight, one's indoor, to give a mix of the lighting and stuff. So depending how you do it at home, you can get away with other stuff, or like the nice office lamps with a gel of, say, wax paper. or parchment
Ooh.
paper to diffuse it. Works as well.
I blog with ring lights, and I think if a photographer can work with the ring around the eye, that's fantastic. I find it just a little distracting as well. So I've morphed from the ring lights to the wand, and I've moved up from the original wand to now I have I can't remember the strength of the wand I have now, but it has the different gels that you can put in it as well.
Okay.
And that works fabulous because I think it's about at first the wands were really thin, and I think my wand is about 2.5 inches, and so it doesn't show like a line or anything in the eyes, and it gives a full length lighting. So I like that a lot better than the ring light now. And it's because it's kind of like, how can you hide it? Because it's hard to like Photoshop that out of an eye, but it does really, it gets rid of a lot of wrinkles, and it's pretty pretty phenomenal. I like those LEDs. But yeah, I moved from that to a wand. That's what I prefer now, because I'm like with Carol, it's just a little distracting for me.
I know that they've been talking about, in a way, creating a smaller light box, and I've seen some, and it's at a variety of different price points, just like some of the ring lights are. So if you want to look, and if you have a little more space, that's good too, because it gives you a little more area. How do you handle reflection from glasses? I wear them and sometimes will tilt them or remove them. Well, there is the ones that have the reflective or non-reflective coating. I know some people get that like for computers and that does a lot of the same difference. For me, I usually ditch the glasses or they're tilted as well.
Yeah, angles that like Carol has pointed out before with the trying different angles. I find sometimes just shifting your angle a little bit, either have the cosplayer angle their head a little bit differently, or I'll shift my camera, shift my angle a little bit. But yeah, glasses are sometimes a bit of a pain, but sometimes you can work with it. I've you can plan for plan for what you want reflected in there. Occasionally you do want something reflected because that can tell a story.
Yeah, I like the individuality of glasses in cosplay, because not everybody has perfect vision or contacts, and so I agree, it is all about angling and trying to make sure that you represent the wearing of glasses the way that the individual wants, but also in a way that's artistic. Like Mary Jo said, I mean, it could also tell a story. You have something reflected in there, but I like the fact that through the years, more people are wearing glasses with their cosplay. I think it's freeing. I like it. So if somebody wants to wear it, there definitely is, like you all suggested, modifying the framing of the picture to incorporate that in a aesthetic way.
And it also depends on the lighting as well. You're going to get a different reflection from computer glare, TV glare, a monitor glare, to the sun reflecting, to darker muted tones. So sometimes it just might be moving a couple feet over out of the direct sunlight or away from a monitor like they have in some convention centers.
I just realized all
Neil,
three of
any
us
thoughts on
wearing
glasses?
glasses.
I know.
We like their glasses.
I know when I'm doing Jean Grey, I usually slip them on into my X belt in the back under the coat.
I love your Jean Grey.
So we're about that time to wrap up. I hope we've given you guys some wonderful stuff to discuss. Are there any last minute questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Carol and Mary
Jen.
Jo. If you could please I would really like to know what your favorite picture was that you've taken. And I know you have a lot, but maybe a better question might be like more unique. Like I'd really like to hear from you both because you guys, like I said, I mean, I watched you and I learned from you, and I'd like to know what kind of stuck in your mind.
Oh, geez. That's a lot.
Yeah. I
No
do
pressure.
enjoy, yeah. I do enjoy like my, I haven't had the money to invest in a lot of lenses, but my two prime lenses are both ones that I bought because they can go to f1.8. And for those who don't really know photography, f-stop is the size of the opening that the light's going through. And so like an f11 is really teeny tiny, and f1.8 is huge. And one of the things that I love about it is when you have that f1.8, even if it's like daylight, you don't need to narrow the light because there's so much light. With a more wide open aperture, you get depth of field. So you have like something in the foreground is in focus, but the background is blurred, kind of like that master picture that Jen had taken where the background is blurred. And that's one of my favorite things to play with is I love playing with depth of field, especially with characters that have weapons. I actually just submitted a photo to that cosplay meetup group. They're doing a photo critique session coming up. And so I submitted a photo. I actually submitted a pair of matching photos, and it's my friend with a gun toward the camera. And so I did it both with the gun in focus and he's blurred, and the gun blurred and he's in focus. And that's kind of some of my favorite photos, is just playing with depth of field and trying to make motion almost in the still photo. I love doing that.
Oh, cool.
One of my favorite shoots was at UchiCon, and it had just snowed, and we're at the University of Chicago, and I hear the puppy.
I know. Sorry, he's been patient.
No, I could tell her. And we had snowed, and so I know one of the people I had was one of our not vocal anymore, Loki's and MJ and stuff, and we made do with the snow. We got some great shots of Loki creating snow, Rukia in the snow with their blade, and
yes,
some of that was with cell phone, but it was taking advantage of the architecture and the area, and all the people I shot with that day trusted me. So it's like, I need you to kneel in the snow. What? Just trust me. Okay. So you might get cold, but they did it, and some of the shots still love them, still share them.
Yeah.
So
actually, here I can actually share that one. I've got it handy. So that's the one Carol's talking about. Is she took that on a cell phone, and that was, yes, I was
and
quite cold. Yeah, I was quite cold, but it was worth it. This is still one of my favorite shots of that costume. It hands down, it really was. And actually, let me see if I can instead. Actually, let me just share the desktop here, because then I can share. Let me pull it up. There it is. So what we were talking about earlier with having your posing reference and your and then use it for a photo. So this was the session with Level Up Photography, and so I've got the reference image. It was a draw. I think it was actually a fan art drawing that I found of Karma and Nagisa, and then we pulled this up and recreated it. And of course, that was a lot of fun trying to. I actually have like 3-inch lifts in my shoes because that the Nagisa cosplayer is Katie, who's one of our hallway judges at Chicago TARDIS, and she and I are really about the same height. And so, and of course, the characters, Karma is so much taller than Nagisa. So to try and get that perspective to work right, I had to have like 3-inch lifts in my shoes, but it was worth it because like we really got the shot pretty much spot on. So that's okay.
Well, if there's nothing else, I'd like to thank our audience for coming in and chiming in. And I hope we are able to impart some knowledge to you. And I want to thank our panelists, Neil, Jen, and Mary Jo. And I'm glad you guys were able to join us. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend. Thank you.
Go Chicago TARDIS.
Yay.
Yay. Thank you.